Hello and welcome into the latest edition of ESPN FC. Kay Murray, Craig Burley and Shaka Hislop here in the studio. In just a moment, we'll be hearing from Julien Laurent as well. And now the group stages are done. And we saw drama down to the final games as well, especially in Group F, where the table finishes with Portugal and Turkey in first and second, respectively. But Georgia, in their first ever Euros, have clinched a spot in the last 16, where they will face Spain. And that came courtesy of a 2-0 win over Portugal, a Portugal team that had made 8 changes. However, Cristiano Ronaldo did still start in that game. Let's welcome in Julien Laurent. He is here with us tonight, and lots to talk about here when it comes to this achievement, Craig, from Georgia. What an achievement it is.
Oh, absolutely fantastic. Yes, Portugal made some changes because they had topped the group, and that was common sense. We'll get to the Ronaldo side of it, who did play a little bit later. But still, that's a lot to do. There's a lot of good players, a lot of experienced players on that Portuguese side. But Kvaratskhelia, getting them off, getting them off to a great start early on, just set the format for them. And they were even, when they got the second goal from a penalty, which was reviewed by VAR, they huffed and puffed, and they were always a threat. And I think it's an absolutely brilliant story. And can I mention Scotland? And I know you're probably thinking why, and most people are probably thinking why bother. Georgia were in Scotland's group, and Scotland beat them by 9 points in total in the group stages. And I've seen a lot of Scottish supporters and Scottish journalists bemoaning the fact that how Georgia have got 4 points and we beat them by 9 points in the group. But they've done it where it mattered. It's the old golf analogy: drive for show and putt for dough. And the qualifiers are the qualifiers. And yes, Scotland were pretty strong in the qualification, but they got 1 point in their group stage. And maybe they could argue the group was slightly harder, with Germany and Switzerland in particular. But it shows that when you get to these tournaments, that this is where your bread is buttered. And Georgia have taken advantage of the Portuguese strength in the first 2 games. They've taken advantage of the changes within that team. And they went out and grabbed qualification by the scruff of the neck. And that is a brilliant achievement.
It really, I mean, fair play to them, Shaka, because even before the game we were saying, I mean, if they win, things look really good for them, but that is if they win against this Portugal team.
In all honesty, I don't think there was a lot of discussion around Georgia winning. It was really about, well, Portugal topped the group unless there's this 5 or 6 goal swing with Turkey, who were in second. And it's just about Portugal kind of managing personnel, making changes. Georgia, it was nice having you along for the tournament. Congrats on your debut. But then all of a sudden, Kvaratskhelia gets this goal 2 minutes in, and the entire conversation just changes. And while Portugal certainly had the dominant, were dominant in terms of possession, had the bulk of chances, Manashvili again outstanding. It was about this kind of plucky Georgian performance that they never really laid down. They kept plugging away, defended well when they had to. And maybe it shows to Craig's point about comparisons. Sometimes the draw favors you. And playing the group favorite in the last game has its benefits, because if it plays out as you would expect, what you get is a weakened group favorite in the third game. But Georgia had to come up big when it mattered, and they did. And for a tournament that's given all kinds of twists and turns, I think this is just a wonderful story for a smaller nation in getting through to the knockout stages.
Yeah, Jules, already in these groups, we've seen some brilliant underdog stories, and this is up there with the best of them. This is just extraordinary from Georgia.
It's one of the best ever. There is no doubt. First ever participation, as we've been saying, to the Euros, to a major tournament. And for them to make it to the last 16, even if with the 3rd place, I know it's not how it used to be with just the top 2 of each group qualifying. It's still incredible. And when Willy Sagnol, who's French, by the way, just if you were wondering if every behind all good stories there's a Frenchman, you're right. You are right. But when he took over in February 2021, I think he saw well, he saw one X factor in Kvaratskhelia, of course, who is by far the best player in that squad. He saw maybe a good player in Mikotadze, who plays in France, who was born in France from Georgian parents and decided to play for Georgia. And then I think he saw a good squad with some youngsters, some experience. Obviously, the captain is 36 now, who can create a good collective team, basically, and a good collective. And if on top of this really good collective where you play deep for sure, but you defend well and you fight for each other and you've got that kind of commitment, on top of that, if you add the talent of Mikotadze and Kvaratskhelia and maybe a couple of others, then everything is possible, really. And they've showed that in these Euros. All their 3 games have been fantastic to watch. I think we would all agree of that. They've got the best goalkeeper in the tournament. In Mikotadze, they've got the top goal scorer in the tournament. They completely deserve to be in the last 16. It's an incredible story.
It really is. And you mentioned in that age 36 there with the captain, there was an older player than that today on the pitch, and his name was Cristiano Ronaldo, starting despite the fact that Portugal had already pretty much topped that group, Craig.
Yeah, and didn't do anything. I think Roberto Martinez got some answers about the fringe players, so that's a concern for him. I think that Ronaldo role is still a concern. It has been. He hasn't been brilliant in the group stages. You would imagine he would have got a full rest today, bearing in mind his age. But clearly he said, and we've discussed this at length, I think he decides pretty much when he plays. Obviously, he didn't decide to come off and was taken off just over the hour mark and was not a happy chappy. In fact, was threw a little bit of a tantrum on the touchline. And you would think to yourself, and this is just Cristiano, with all respect, this is just Cristiano Ronaldo worrying about his personal stats. That's all. That's all it is. Because if he still sees himself, and I'm sure he does, as the linchpin in this Portuguese side, it's not about him padding his stats in the final group game against. Oh, by the way, you see that he got booked as well for a tantrum over a non-call by the referee. Who, by the way, he might as well just put the yellow card on his forehead tonight. The referee walking around with it, because it was out all the time. There was red cards out at the end. But, from Ronaldo's perspective, the tantrums that he's throwing, the mini tantrum he threw when he come off, it's just saying to me, to him, it's more about, and I'm not saying he's not passionate about his country. He is, and you can see that in the amount of games and goals he's scored. But this is not about him getting on the score sheet. This is about him being ready at his best, because he's going to play in the knockout stages. And when a manager takes you off and, all these sort of things, it's because he's trying to protect having the strongest team in the knockout. And yet I still feel, to me, a lot of this for Ronaldo is about improving his stats, improving his goals, and maybe there is something to that. But the bigger picture is, it's more important for Portugal to be fresh and strong, not whether he gets on the score sheet or not. So again, the way that Roberto Martinez is going to manage this, and it's not been a major problem thus far because the group has been quite simple for them. The way that he's going to manage this, if things get very tight in the knockout stages, is going to be really interesting.
By the way, we've got Czechia, Turkey on in the background. I think that's where all the cards were coming out at the end in that game, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
sorry.
it's fine. We've got a few games going on at once. This is what happens when all the games are being played at the same time.
I saw that referee with when we were painting the pictures over there, I saw the yellow card, and then I was watching that, and I just thought, because that other game was...
that game was...
other game
there was a lot going on there as well, and there's a few things to discuss there. But when it comes to Ronaldo, do you really think it is something like that, Jules, that he's deciding that he's actually getting asked, do you want to play this game or not?
100%. There is no head coach in the whole world who would think we've qualified, we've topped the group. My captain, my best player, my player is 40 years old. What should I do? Should I start him in a game where he can get injured, sent off, miss loads of chances, which would knock his confidence, maybe loads of negative things, really. Yeah, let's start him. What a great idea. This was a madness that Cristiano was on the pitch, and that's definitely his choice. And like Craig said, when he came off after 65 minutes or so, he was even still unhappy. So if he was fully down to him, he would have played the whole 90 minutes, which makes no sense whatsoever. And if I'm Roberto Martinez, this is even the wrong message I'm sending to my dressing room, to my squad, to my players, because everybody can see then that Cristiano does whatever he wants.
Well, let's get to the other group game.
That's the game we all this is.
The game that we all wanted to talk about, Czechia against Turkey, finishing 2-1 in the end to the Turks. But there was a big decision in this one that went against the Czechs, Shaka.
Yeah, and listen, if you're Czechia, you're wondering how you're out of this tournament. First of all, you have a man sent off after 20 minutes. I mean, absolutely absurd. Turkey then gets a goal and a strange kind of coming together. The goalkeeper, the starting goalkeeper, dislocates or seems to dislocate his shoulder. The ball falls nice to Çalhanoğlu. Incredible finish. Let's not take anything away from that. And then all of a sudden, Czechia just, they go for broke at that point. And I thought they were really good value. Get themselves back in the game. And then that defining moment, 10 minutes from the end, where the referee disallows a goal for a foul, and he blows fairly early. I did not see a foul at all in the build-up play. I thought it was just physical. If anything, two Turkey defenders were more physical with the Czech striker. And to blow as early as he did, to make that decision when he did, I thought was just an injustice to the Czechs. Yes, Turkey go on and score later on, but again, the Czechia needed a goal later on. 10 men pushing forward, they get exposed. But that just felt awful for Czechia in how that came together and the fact that they're now out of the tournament because of it. And keep in mind how big a swing that would have been, because now Turkey finishing second, had that goal stood and Czechia defends their lead, Turkey are out. And it's for a game that had all kinds of controversies, that the referee was determined to make his name in. I'm sorry, he couldn't get that more wrong.
Did the referee, and I can't remember when we were watching this, did the referee blow the whistle for his perceived infringement that he saw before the ball hit the net? And maybe that's the reason that VAR was not able to get involved.
He seemed to blow it just as, and I can't remember the striker's name, just as he hit it. So there's this tussling at the top of the box, a couple of bodies go down, and just as the striker gets on the end of the ball and hits it, the referee, the whistle seems to go. But at that point, the ball's on its way to
Well, you and I both watched it, and we sat and saw the replays, and I think we both agreed there was a bit of physical contact there on the edge of the box, but there certainly didn't seem to be a free kick to me. And I got the sense, whatever way this panned out, was that VAR would throw this one, when you're throwing a bone out about VAR and why they wouldn't send the referee to the monitor, because they're sort of out here, if this was the case, could be, well, there was contact, so I'm going to stick with the referee's on-field decision. And that's a kind of an out for VAR and not sending the referee to the monitor. But certainly at the time, it seemed very harsh on Czechia. And of course, it changed the pattern of the game, because, at that point, Turkey would have been out and Czechia wouldn't have had to have thrown all the bodies forward like they did at the end, which resulted in Cenk Tosun. And by the way, Çalhanoğlu scored a great goal, as he usually does, striking the ball. But Cenk Tosun gets the winner because the Shaq said they're down to 10 men. The Czechia, they're chucking everybody forward. They're out on their feet. They're out of the competition. And so that changed the whole way that the game was played out. This referee, and I'm not suggesting there was a bunch of angels on the field today, but I think he lost control of this game very, very early on.
For the number of yellow cards and eventually red cards, as we saw at the end, it didn't feel like that physical or that dirty a game. I just felt the referee got this all wrong.
Another group that concluded today was, of course, Group E, and this was so finely poised when you looked at it coming into the final day. All of the teams level on points coming into it, and it finished that way as well. In the end, Romania win the group. Belgium go through as runners-up. Slovakia squeeze through as one of the four best-placed third teams, and Ukraine miss out. But let's start with the game between Ukraine and Belgium. It finished goalless, and it's not as if, Craig, Belgium even went out to try and win this group. Are you surprised to see that? Because if they'd gone out for the win in this game, it could have been a very different finish in the table for them.
Well, I'm not surprised to see their performances remaining apart, because I don't, and I've said before this competition started, I think they're a side in decline. Even with some younger players coming through, but they are uninspiring at best. And I was almost willing Ukraine to score in the end, and they had their chances, particularly near the end. The only reason Belgium were able to get what they needed was because Ukraine are lightweight in the final third. You know, they're lightweight in the final third. Dovbyk has lost the form of the first 6 months of the La Liga season when he was at Girona. And the rest of the side are kind of limited. Now, they did cause Belgium some problems, but Belgium are lucky they're through. They are not a good side to watch. They're lethargic. You know, Doku's hitting a miss on the left. You know, De Bruyne is trying to carry the whole side, but he looks heavy-legged and frustrated. And they get France. They get France, and if France turn up, and when we get to the business end, the French normally get their finger out because they really enjoy the big game pressure, then I can't see this Belgium side are going to get what they're just desserts, and I think that's to be sent home. And I think it starts from the manager with team selection, particularly on match day one, and it's worked its way all the way through. And they were, you know, had Ukraine today in that second half had a bit more guile and quality in the final third, this Belgium side would have been beaten.
Sorry, on paper, this should have been a non-contest, in all honesty. And while Belgium go through, and Kevin De Bruyne in his post-game press conferences, it was saying, well, we got through. Had we taken chances and conceded and found ourselves out of the tournament, what would the criticism at that point been like? And while he has a point, the fact is we're talking about Belgium against Ukraine, a very talented Belgium side. So why does it take a gamble? Why do Belgium need to gamble to beat Ukraine is a question that I would then be asking Kevin De Bruyne. And the thing for me is, and it kind of summed up, that comment from Kevin De Bruyne kind of summed up the feeling around Belgium. Is this accepting of just being average by a very talented Belgian team? That all that matters is we get through. It doesn't matter, you know, we can't play well. It certainly is absolutely bemusing. No, I think that attitude and kind of given the performances, more to the point, I don't see Belgium going much further, and rightly so. This is a very talented team that have just decided they're average and no more.
And we've seen our Mark Ogden as well tweeting out, Jules, that in Stuttgart today, Kevin De Bruyne was booed when he picked up the Player of the Match award by his own fans, and that the Belgian fans were booing their own players at the end of this game.
Too right. I think if you're a fan, you've traveled all the way from Belgium to Germany, you've seen 3 games, 3 pathetic games, 3 pathetic performances from them. This is the easiest group by far in this whole tournament. And this is what they do. This is what they give us. This 0-0. I mean, you said, Kate, earlier to Craig, they didn't want to win the game. At the end, they've got a corner, and Kevin De Bruyne, of all people, is playing for the 0-0, when they must have known, really, that 0-0 meant France and the harder side of the draw. Why would you settle for a 0-0? Why not trying to go and score and win, and then go avoid France to start with, go over Romania, and then end up in the good side of the draw, not the tough side of the draw? It was completely mad from them, and not making any sense at all. And that's what this team has done all through this tournament. Tedesco has been dreadful as a head coach, tactically in his team selections, this hybrid back 3, back 4. We don't really have a left back or left wing back. His Doku does, we're not really sure what. Tielemans, Onana, not sure what happened to them, but it must be the twin brothers. This is just ridiculous, the level. So now they qualified, and De Bruyne is right. At least they've got that. Okay, it would have been even worse had they not qualified in that group. But now let's see what they can do, because if they don't raise their game, even in the form that the French are right now, there's no context, there's no match there.
Tedesco looks as if he's been out his depth. Jules is right. This group, Belgium should have, even with I don't think they're a particularly good side at the moment, or have been for a while, but they should still have waltzed this group. He set the tone in match day 1 with his team selection and the way they went about it. That was the tone set. But they've scrambled through. I am sick and tired already. In this tournament, we've had it with Harry Kane and 1 or 2 others. Now we have it with Kevin De Bruyne. Unwilling to accept the criticism that's coming your way, this time from the crowd. This is big boys' rules here. Why would do you expect your home fans, your own fans, to applaud that drivel? Really? Harry Kane, he expects everybody to toe the line and get behind a rancid England side in this tournament. Two of the biggest players in European football, Kane and De Bruyne, can't accept that the fans demand more. It's embarrassing. He should have been in that press conference and said, I would have booed if I was watching that. Because it's not good enough. It's not. There is results and there is performance. And they both go hand in hand. And sometimes you clamber to a championship by not playing well. Very unlikely, but sometimes it can happen. But that's at least two elite level players that have come out whinging and crying about criticism that's coming their way. If they don't like it, go and sit on a beach somewhere and let somebody else do it. It's part of the job. We've all had it. It's never going to change. We all get it. We've all deserved it. You put yourself out there. This is the pressure. This is what you need to do. You've got your nation watching. You've got thousands in the stand. You're on TV. You're in the big arena. It's time to stop blubbering about criticism when they don't play well. Because those two sides we've talked about and those two players are two of the more elite level squads. And they've been the two worst countries to watch thus far when we're talking about teams that are supposed to be elite level. It's embarrassing.
What's really tough as well in that group, Jules, is the fact that Ukraine finished level on points with the fellow teams in their group and do not make it on 4 points. The first time in European Championship history that you fail to progress when you've got 4 points in a group. It does feel harsh for them.
Yeah, it does. And to be fair, they played well today at times. Maybe their best performance in the second game. They won it late. That was a little bit better. But I thought today they played some really good stuff. And I'm not sure about Rebrov as a head coach. Again, going back to those coaches that do some weird things. But at least today there was some sort of improvement. I mean, he went two up front to start with. He changed a few things because they had to win the game. And they tried. They were always going to be limited. Let's be honest. Mudryk wasn't there. Not sure exactly why, but they were always going to be a bit limited. It's a shame, and also for everything that it represents for them and what it would have meant for them and for their people if they qualified and continue this adventure that I'm sure back home takes people's mind away from what's happening in their own country. So it's a shame, really. But again, you just haven't been good enough over the 3 games.
So now the bracket is set because all of those group stage games have been played and we know who will be facing who. And let's just put this as it is. There is one side of the bracket that is definitely a lot heavier than the other side. And as for England, lucky for them, they're not on the side that's quite so heavy. Next up for them is Slovakia. Now you can see how things play out. Romania against Netherlands. Austria will be taking on Turkey. England against Slovakia. Switzerland, Italy. On the other side, Spain, Georgia. Germany will face Denmark. Portugal against Slovenia. And France against Belgium. So England against Slovakia, Craig.
I mean, I'm not being funny, but how lucky do you have to be at every recent major tournament? I mean, the way that it has fallen for England, 2018, 2021, 2022 World Cup to an extent, the pathway that they've had through the early stages and now the knockout is scary. And there's no getting away from that, right? Now, Slovakia could knock them out the way that they're playing. I don't think so. 45th ranked by FIFA. You know, that's where England have fallen into that. And it's fallen on Gareth Southgate's lap again. And as bad as they are and have been, they could go quite deep in this tournament because they're in once again, and this is not any anti-English bias, this is factual. You go back and look at it. They have somehow managed to get themselves through an easier side. Their group wasn't particularly difficult. They made it a lot more difficult than it looked. And now this potential pathway, I'm going to say, is about as easy as it comes.
If we were looking at that on balancing scale, Shaka, it would be completely mismatched all over. On one side, we're seeing Spain, Germany, Portugal, and France.
Those are the two finalists from the last Euros run one half of the bracket, in England and Italy. I say tongue totally in cheek here. Listen, I'm with Craig in that if you're England, you look at that side of the bracket, or more to the point, you look at the other side of the bracket and you can't believe how fortunate you've been. You've been desperately poor all tournament long, yet you can see a path all the way through to the final. The only major test really being Italy, who themselves, last Euros apart, have not really haven't qualified for international tournaments. Listen, and all of a sudden you put a run together, maybe you put some good form together, and all the conversations that we've been having about England in the group stage is long forgotten. Trouble is, you just question whether Gareth Southgate, this team, and how poor everybody has been are able to raise their game as needed.
So I wonder who are favourites when it comes to winning the whole tournament, when it comes to...
Well, it's not England, I'll tell you that.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is England.
I'm
Ahead
not
of
being
Spain,
funny.
France, Germany. Hold your thoughts.
Well, no, what's it? I need to say something. No, I need to say something. I'm going to be ill if I don't say something.
Go on then. Just don't say who you think's going to win.
How the hell can England be favourites? How can anybody in their right mind say... How many do you think they're going to be running down to ESPN Bet, wherever that is? I don't know. Do you think they're going to be going online ESPN Bet? 3-1 England, 3-1. Let's get on.
Oh, God.
Oh,
I wouldn't put money on them at 300 to 1.
I'm going to send you to the positivity corner because we need to speak to our
3-1
team
England.
in LA. We've got Sebi Herk and Ale with us. We've got Copa America to discuss, and Argentina. We got another look at them last night. Sebi, over to you while he cools down.
A positivity corner, something that has never been once needed here, I think, in our Los Angeles studios, even with the big game between Venezuela and Mexico brewing tonight. Let's take a look back at that game, why don't we, between Argentina and Chile, of course, last night in New Jersey. Argentina 1-0 winners. Lautaro Martinez, the goal in the 88th minute. That was the difference. Alejandro, on last night's Copa America, you said that this was the first game that for you had a real Copa America feel. With us now, a man who was live in the stadium last night, Alex Kirkland. I want to get his opinion. Alex, what did you think of the atmosphere there in New Jersey?
Atmosphere was good. Atmosphere was good. It was once again a game dominated by Argentina fans and the fans backing Argentina because I don't know what percentage of that stadium was full of Chile fans, but it was certainly dominated by blue and white. And that was reflected on the field, really, wasn't it? It was a game that Argentina once again dominated, didn't necessarily manage to convert the chances they were creating and got the job done in the end very, very late to go through to the quarterfinals, the first team to qualify for the quarterfinals. But still some questions maybe around this Argentina team. They may well have qualified with these two games so far with one game to spare. But it's still not the finished article. And like I say, there are some issues there in terms of, I think, some of the chances they're conceding at one end and maybe the failure to convert some of their chances at the other end. But overall, I guess the news for Argentina is mostly positive.
The atmosphere, of course, one of the storylines. The other one was Messi, who looked like he was hurt but did manage to play the full 90 minutes. Do you have any concerns coming out of that game about his ability to kind of finish out the tournament and be as productive as we've expected him to be?
Well, the truth is, by the end of the match, he was dragging that right leg, and his leg had been treated over the course of the game. Multiple times during the match, he was stretching it. You could see that it was an issue, and as he was chasing Di Maria down for essentially or potentially a tap-in towards the end of the match, I have no reason as to why he was making this sprint, but he was, and it was his version of sprinting when you're dragging a leg, and it's something that we talked about last night. It's like he was bringing the leg along, and you could tell that obviously, at the very least, there was discomfort. The way I see it is that there's something going on, and it's not something that they're going to discuss publicly or in great detail. But what I know for certain is that Lionel Messi will not play in that match, in the third match, group stage match against Peru, because Argentina has a bigger picture in mind and a bigger picture that includes winning this competition. And they're very much still the favorites, because when you look at everybody that has played, everybody seems to have questions about, is this team that good? Is this team that good? What about Colombia? What about the United States? Is Bolivia really a test? Well, no, it isn't. And you're trying to find reasons as to why other teams will challenge Argentina, and I still haven't seen a team that has looked better than Argentina.
Can you find a reason that somebody could challenge Argentina?
Uruguay is a team that could challenge Argentina, has beat Argentina in Argentina. Certainly, they're a team. Colombia is red hot, 23 straight games unbeaten, 8 of those straight wins. But certainly, when you look at this Argentina team and the way they play and the way they have played in this tournament and the support they have, sure, a lot of Argentina jerseys there. I don't know how many of them are Argentinian or just Messi fans, but they have massive support and will certainly be the #1 supported team in this tournament by far. But I'm very worried about this injury to Messi because we've seen this movie before. Those of us who cover Major League Soccer have seen Inter Miami, have seen Messi come summertime be involved in a game where he feels something, and that's what he said. He felt something, and then it's 10, 15 days of no Messi. He's 37 years old. He just turned 37 years old. Your body doesn't respond the same way. It doesn't recover the same way. He himself said he felt it. I have no idea, along with Alejandro, why he was on the field after that. Certainly, he's in doubt versus Peru, but beyond that, I would be worried if I'm Scaloni.
If, for whatever reason, Ale, he's out or can't be that difference maker, can Argentina win without him?
They can, but I obviously it's not nearly as likely as with Lionel Messi on the field. And it would be sort of the beginning of that transition that eventually is going to have to happen. And you need to find answers as to who's going to be that guy that will be a difference maker at that level. And good luck with that, because that guy currently doesn't exist for Argentina. But they can change things around. I think they can structure the team differently. And you'll have, instead of Lionel Messi kind of walking, slow jogging it, and then sort of picking up the pace. And whenever he does get involved, then he's making a difference. You'll have 2 strikers playing alongside each other that are working off of each other in the case of Julian Alvarez and, of course, Lautaro Martinez. The structure of the team would change. The feel of the team would change. I wouldn't see Argentina as favorite if Lionel Messi is not on the field. But your question was, can they win it? Yes, they can.
All right, let's take a look at the group standings as they stand right now in Group A. Argentina first, already through to the knockout rounds. Canada picking up a narrow victory over Peru, 1-0. Peru with a player ejected in the second half. Argentina going through. Ale, who's joining them?
Chi, 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 le, 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 viva Chile. That's who's going through.
Yeah.
And Canada, I suppose they won the game, and yet I was left with a feeling of frustration and disappointment about the way that they handled the match, about the way they managed the game late. They got a gift from Peru in the red card by Miguel Araujo that allowed Canada back into this game, because quite often they had not been competitive up until that point. And I just don't see that they're going to be able to match the intensity that we saw in a losing effort by Chile last night against Argentina. Now, the big challenge for Chile will be, can they, without Argentina in front of them, without Brazil in front of them, without Uruguay in front of them, that really gets their attention, with Canada, can they give that sort of performance with that intensity, that urgency, that desire that you felt in the stadium, that desire that you felt on the field, that fight, those duels, that physicality? If Chile brings that, then they'll win against Canada. If they don't, then it is goodbye.
You agree?
This is a pick 'em for me, and honestly, I'm going to go with Canada here. They're the younger team, they're the fresher team, they're the faster team. I'm looking at a Chile team that's going to be playing their 3rd game in about 8-9 days in the Florida sun, versus a team that should be fresh, should be younger, should be faster. This Chile team relies on aging stars like Alexis Sanchez, 35 years of age, Edu Vargas, 34 years of age, Claudio Bravo, 41, Isla, who plays on the right-hand side, 36, who's a right back. Maybe it's asking too much of this team. Maybe they're a little long in the tooth, but certainly if they make it a physical battle, certainly if they bring them down to their level, and I mean in the most respectful and impactful way for Chile against Canada, they can certainly impose their strengths here and win this game. But I'm taking Canada in this one.
And I understand what you're saying. I get where you're coming from, Hercules. But the truth of the matter is that Canada yesterday, even playing with a man up, were dragging towards the end of the match. Yeah, the young team that you're talking about, they were dragging. And so you say they're fresh. Fresh-ish.
Yeah,
ish.
Alex Kirkland's still with us. He's seen both Canada and Chile play live. Who do you think's going through?
Yeah, and I'm going to be at this game, and I cannot wait. I think it's such a fascinating kind of clash of styles. You've got this team Canada, first time ever in the Copa America, on the brink of the group stage, and Chile, who have got, as you say, this sort of generation that looks a little bit past itself by date. They're still hanging on. I fancy Canada. I've liked what I've seen of them. I thought I was impressed with them against Argentina in the opening game. I think Canada have got enough to go through to the next round, and what a story that would be on their Copa debut.
All right, there is Alex Kirkland. You can find his great work over at ESPN.com. Good to have you with us here on ESPN FC. Let's move from Group A discussion to Group B. Going down tonight, we got Jamaica against Ecuador in the first game, and then Venezuela against Mexico in the second game. Both Venezuela and Mexico winning their respective openers in this competition. How about the predictions? No surprise. I say Mexico's going to win. Definitely not biased at all. Ale, draw 1-1. Hercules says draw 1-1. I think, Herc, you're probably the least biased of the three of us. So explain your prediction first.
This is probably the closest matchup out of all of them, and they're going to play at SoFi Stadium. The confines are very tight. That probably plays into Venezuela's favor, being compact, being so defensive, and the way they can explode out. And I saw a Venezuela team against Ecuador that when they put the ball in the box from wide angles, really complicated Ecuador. I think that could be the same for the Mexican national team. The problem here is the Mexican national team is going to have so much of the ball. And I think they're going to change the personnel. Better players that maybe don't rely so much on open space could have a lot of long distance shots. It could be one of those situations where maybe they get a scrappy goal. But I do see Venezuela getting on the board. To me, this is going to be 1-1.
You agree?
Well, yes. I think the graphic shows 1-1.
Yes, so I'm curious as to why.
Which also shows that I can be objective when talking.
What are you trying to say
about my team? I'm not pointing the finger. It's just other people in this panel. Objectivity, not their strength. I can be objective about Venezuela. And I'll have you know, historically, we haven't been all that successful against Mexico. So truth be told, I'll take a draw right now. And I'll take a draw because I think that puts pressure on Mexico against Ecuador in their last match, and it puts a responsibility of Venezuela to do something positive against Jamaica. If that's what you want to offer me, I'll take it. I think it's going to be a really difficult match for both teams to actually get into the rhythm of play, because what we saw at SoFi Stadium is that you can barely complete 3 passes before you get 3 guys around you, given the fact that there's no space to play. It's a futsal court out there in SoFi Stadium. And so you complete 3 passes, and now guys get around you, and eventually you end up turning the ball over. So it'd be turnover after turnover after turnover, very little rhythm, and that plays right into the hands of, yeah, you know it and you love it, Venezuela.
What do you think is tighter confines, SoFi or the Monumental?
Oh, SoFi. Monumental. That's nice.
They're talking about Moreno's backyard.
That's right, Moreno's backyard, the 2v2 pitch, which we often dominate on. When we work together, tonight we may be working a little bit further apart.
Why is this happening? Send him a new graphic. Where's the other cat, Alejandro?
No, fine. No, take me off because this is my last show, baby. My last show.
You'll be back.
Keep me off.
You'll be back.
We'll be live in the immediate aftermath of Mexico and Venezuela, right around 8 p.m. Pacific time, 11 p.m. out there on the East Coast.
Did he cool off over there? Is he better?
Where Craig is back from the positivity corner. Is he? Is that what I understand?
Well, we'll wait and see, guys, because we've got our brackets now, and we're going to decide who's going to win the whole thing.
I'm all calm, guys.
There you go.
Hey, my wife, apparently my wife
can you explain to us why England are favourites?
What?
Yes, yeah. No, I know that production would like me to explain to Craig, because he cannot quite understand why England are favorites. Craig, it's all about the bracket, man. You know how it works in major international tournaments. You got the other 4 best teams on one side of the bracket. They're all slated to meet in the quarterfinals. The group winners on England's side of the bracket are Romania and Austria. I mean, you can't
watch out for Austria.
You cannot get much luckier than England does here, unless if you want to look back to 2018, when basically the same thing happened.
By the way, this is not bracket for dummies. I know how brackets work, you know.
Well, you're curious. You're very curious about what's happening with the odds. I just wanted to make sure you were square over there.
I'm going on the eye test, right? I'm taking the old eye test. And the eye test on England, no matter what side of the bracket they're on, has failed.
As did his trip to the positivity corner, as you can tell.
Well, that didn't last long.
Yeah, guys, thanks so much. We'll be speaking to you all again soon, and we'll have Ali Marino back.
Say what, any more of that, and I'll go to LA. I'll really make it miserable for them. I'll get on a flight, and I'll go over there, and I'll make their life even more miserable than it is.
Let's welcome in Jules once again, because we want to talk through our brackets. And Jules, we're going to make you go first and explain to us who have you got, why have you got them, and how it's all going to play out.
Yeah, so I went for, if we start on the tough side of the draw, obviously, Spain against Georgia. Spain will go through. Germany, Denmark. I know, again, it's no-brainer, but Germany at home, I think even if Denmark have been okay in this tournament, they will go through. Portugal, same, Portugal through. And then France against Belgium, the two neighbors. We said how bad Belgium have been, and I think France are going to raise their game. So I will have quarterfinals of Spain against Germany, with Germany going through, France against Portugal, France going through because we usually beat the Portuguese anyway. And then a box office semi-final of Germany against France, where we just come and basically ruin the party of the Germans.
Okay,
And on the other side of the
on
group,
the other side.
the bad side. I'm not even going to watch this side, Kay. I don't know why I'm talking about this side. It's not, doesn't interest me at all. Absolutely not. There's Gareth Southgate is one of the worst coaches in this tournament, and yet he's the luckiest. Anyway, Romania, Netherlands, the Netherlands, because I think they're going to raise their game, to be fair to them. Then Austria, I think, will also qualify. I've got England, of course, beating Slovakia. And between Switzerland and Italy, it's going to be very interesting. And I think that Switzerland will go through and beat the Italians. Then Netherlands against Austria. They play each other again after obviously facing each other in the group stage. And the Dutch will have their revenge. England will still be too strong for Switzerland. So that leaves me with Netherlands against England in the other semi-final. Not box office at all. And really, France are going to beat Germany, as I said. And then I think the Dutch can upset the English, just because I wanted to wind you up, Kay.
It's okay. It's been winding me up enough just watching them in the group stages. Don't you think I've suffered enough, Jules?
No, you do, to be fair. And I didn't even need to say that France will win the whole thing, as we always do.
That's true. We should have just gone straight to the final, shouldn't we? Okay, you keep warming up, Shaka.
I am warming up for this.
Get us kicked off with your Shaka.
Let's see. I think for these games, I echo Jules. All the favourites go through. So you have Spain, Germany, Portugal, France. From there, I think Spain get the better of the whole. Spain has been certainly the most exciting team so far this tournament. I think France get the better of Portugal. France, I'm hoping, hit their stride. Jules tells me France gets better in the knockout stages. On this side of the bracket,
Shaka.
Netherlands, Austria. I've got England, Italy. Jules just doesn't like the Swiss after they knocked France out 3 years ago. I've got Austria getting the better of the Dutch to go through to the semis. Italy beating England, as they did 3 years ago. Italy beat Austria to get through to the final. France beating Spain. So it'll be a France-Italy final. And then at risk of exciting Jules, even more, France beat the Italians to win it all.
My man! My man.
I got to go next.
Right,
I thought we'd get away with it.
I've got to the end game pretty simple.
Okay, you're next.
My end game's pretty similar, but how I've got there is slightly different, right?
Oh.
It's kind of the story of your life, though.
Right. So I got Spain. I got Spain going through. I got Germany going through. I got Portugal going through. I got France getting through. I then got France beating Portugal, and I was 50-50 on this one. But I think Spain just overcome the home crowd with particularly those young wide players. Now, the other side of the bracket, I have Switzerland beating Italy, like Jules. I've got England going through. I got Austria going through. I got the Netherlands going through. But I don't think the Italians are very good, to be honest with you. I've then got Switzerland knocking England out. And the reason is because this Switzerland side are more than a decent side. And if England continue to perform the way they have, then I think the Swiss can knock them out. I think Austria, we could see them going through. They're very well organised under Ralph Rangnick. It's not a very exciting semi-final. I know that. I've got the French beating the Spanish. I think it's going to be a great semi-final. And I don't know how I've managed to get it. But somehow on that, if this is a good side of the bracket for England, it's a good side of the bracket for Switzerland, who are, and on their day, have knocked out some big teams, as Jackie mentioned it, and knocked out some big teams in the past. They've got experience, they've got pace, they've got power, they've got decent players at the back, and on their day, and I don't think we saw the best of them in the group stages, Switzerland, particularly in the Scotland game. I thought they were average. But they could beat any of these big teams on their day. And I just think, from my perspective, you look at it and go, yeah, England will knock out Switzerland. There's not been a team in this tournament thus far much weaker than the Swiss that England have looked comfortable against. So But bar for a huge turnaround from Southgate's side, I think the first decent side they come across, they're probably going to get knocked out. And I just don't see the Italians, if I'm being honest with you, I just don't see them as a very threatening side. I think they've hung on by their fingernails to get where they are.
All right. So making Jules happy.
So that's the English upset. That's the Italians upset. Anybody else?
Well, how are you on a roll?
I've got Spain against Germany in the quarters. I would have liked that to have been a final, actually, seeing the way that they're both playing. But there you go. Portugal to get through to face France in the quarterfinals. And then in the semi-final between Germany and France, sorry, Jules, this is where you guys would bow out. I've got Germany going through as the host.
Yeah.
I think he'd seen it before we started today.
Well, don't tell. Listen,
Netherlands and Austria to go through.
Don't tell me. Are we waving an Italian flag here?
There's going to be problems in the Murray Bonetti household.
There's going to be at some point, so let's prolong it, all right?
Exactly.
But then I've got Austria as my dark horse because they've been impressing so far. They will come up against England in the semi-finals. And I too, Craig, found myself going, oh, does that mean that England make the final then? Where, of course, there is a chance to do that. And yes, it would be up against Germany. And we all know what happens when that happens. Germany to win it. Yeah.
Oh.
So that's how things have played out for me.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
No bias at all from anybody here.
Tell you what, Austria are having a great tournament.
They're having a good
Austria
one.
hopes it finishes now.
They're having a good one. All right. These guys will be back to answer your questions on the latest edition of Extra Time. And you can always keep up to date with Extra Time over on our YouTube channel. You're seeing last night's. That was a particularly funny one. Go back and check it out if you haven't. All right, transfer talk. It's that time of the year when we all start talking about transfers, and there are a few to discuss today. So I'm very glad we have Julien Laurent with us to talk us through a few of the rumours and some of the moves that we are seeing right now. We want to start, Jules, with Manchester United's interest in Manuel Ugarte from PSG, who you can tell us more about, the Uruguayan international who's in Copa America action this summer.
Yeah, very interesting one, I believe. And I was told that there was a first offer from United that was rejected by PSG, who, paid 60 million euros a year ago for Ugarte. At that time, PSG saw him as this number 6 defensive midfielder, really an enforcer who would recover the ball. And he's that kind of presence in midfield, which he has been for the first few months of the season. And then I think physically he tired a bit. He lost his place in the team. Luis Enrique preferred a more comfortable ball-playing defensive midfielder, if you want, like a Vitinha, for example, or Zaire Emery, those kind of profiles, Fabian Ruiz. And then Ugarte found himself on the bench, and he doesn't want to be on the bench. Luis Enrique is not sure to find him a place in the team for next season, so he's become available on the market. And it's not just United. I think there's a few clubs in Spain and in Italy as well who see him, considering the good seasons that he had at Sporting before coming to Paris and the good start of the season that he had at PSG last season. A really good young player, young prospect. So PSG, I think, will want to cash in to reinvest that money anyway instead of keeping him on the bench. He has really some good assets in his game. He reads the game well. He's a physical player. He's not scared of going into challenges, and he's a really strong boy. But on the ball, when he has to build up from the back, he's struggling a little bit, and that's why Luis Enrique never really fancied him.
All right, we must move on to another young starlet that's been likely to be moving to Chelsea from Barcelona. We're talking about Marc Guiu, who we got to see this season for Barcelona. And it's a very low release clause. You wonder if Barcelona are kicking themselves for letting him be put on the big stage that they have done, Jules.
Yeah, 6 million euros for Marc Guiu, who we saw, as you said, making his debut last season on ESPN with Barcelona in La Liga against Athletic Club de Bilbao, scoring, I think, on his second touch, which was pretty incredible in that game. Then he went away with Spain, youth teams, for example, and did extremely well. Is he a super talented kid for the next few years? I'm not convinced, to be fair. That's maybe why the release clause is only 6 million euros. There's a reason why Barcelona never really offered him the new contract that he wanted, because maybe they don't really believe in him that much. He's not really a La Masia type of striker too. He's strong, he's quite physical, he's quite quick, but maybe not the best technically. So I guess from a Chelsea point of view, it's a very low risk transfer. 6 million is nothing for them. You get him. If he's successful, if he's good, great. If it's not, you know you're going to make your money back somehow. So, yeah, I can see this one happening, but I'm not really sure he will solve many of the Chelsea problems going forward in the efficiency department, if you want.
Okay, speaking of strikers, Romelu Lukaku could be going to the red and black side of Milan. He's been linked with Milan, and obviously there could be a bit of a battle there against Napoli with Antonio Conte heading things up there now. But what's the latest here?
I mean, I saw those rumors about Milan going for Lukaku. This is not really what this Milan side does. This is not what the owners do. This is not how they do the recruitment. They want young players. They certainly want a Lukaku who's 31, who did okay at Roma last season, and then Mourinho, and then obviously Daniele De Rossi. But, I mean, again, I'm not sure what you're going to sign Lukaku unless you get him on loan, and that potentially could maybe suit them because they want a number 9. They need a number 9 for sure. Giroud is leaving, so they need somebody there. But so far, the targets that they've had, someone like Joshua Zirkzee, for example, is not at all, one, the profile of Lukaku, and two, the age or the money that they would spend on Lukaku, who's on enormous wages. So I find really that one difficult to understand on Lukaku and Milan. However, for Napoli, it's a bit different because Antonio Conte said today that Osimhen will leave, that there's an agreement between Osimhen and Napoli to let him go this summer. Unlike someone like Kvaratskhelia, who Conte said he's definitely staying, trust me, same for Lobotka, same for Anguissa. So there's players who are definitely staying. Osimhen is not one of them. So then Napoli would need a number 9. And as we know, as you mentioned, Kay, the history between Lukaku and Conte is obviously going back a long, long time. They love each other. And you wouldn't be surprised if Napoli, as a gift to Conte for arriving at the club, bring him Romelu Lukaku.
Any of these transfers stand out to you guys? Any that you're interested in or have something to say on?
Well, the interest that Mark gave to is a very interesting strategy, I suppose, from Chelsea. You know, they're going to have to go and bring in players that can do it here and now. That's obviously for the future. The Lukaku one, I thought he had an undying love for Inter. Or was it just Milan as a local player?
As a city?
Yeah, it's just the city of Milan.
Understand that.
But they've just got rid of,
Yeah,
you know...
that as well.
Yeah, they've just got rid of, obviously, Olivier Giroud, who has just been a terrific striker most of his career. Whether you're a fan of Giroud or not, he has been absolutely first class. But as Joe said, they're looking for younger players. You know, I mean, they have to get the age down. And, you know, Lukaku, let's be honest, you're not looking at him in this Euros and going, right, that's the guy for me. You're just not. And maybe Antonio Conte will maybe get him to lose a little bit of timber and quicken him up, and he's going to look fresh again, and maybe that'll suit Napoli and blah, blah, blah. I don't know. But I don't see Milan making that one, to be honest with you. But you never know.
The Napoli move is the only one that makes sense, and it only makes sense because of Antonio Conte. Otherwise, I just don't see why you take the chance on Romelu Lukaku, this version of Romelu Lukaku, with the kind of wages that he is on. But there's also no question that Conte got the best out of Romelu Lukaku in an Inter shirt. So that for me makes sense, especially as with Osimhen moving on, similar profile striker. That makes total sense. Mark, it makes sense with the 6 million release clause. In today's market, if you can run in a straight line, you can almost command 20 million. So almost that's a free hit for Chelsea. Whatever happens, they can move him on, and you can almost guarantee that they'll get 20 million for him at some point in the next few years. So that also, and he's only 18 years old, so they've got a lot of time to realize some kind of return on him. Return, assuming that he doesn't make the grade and he has to be moved on. So that is just a common sense move. For me. Other than that, there's, as I say, it's just about Lukaku, and the only one that makes sense is joining.
When Antonio Conte had Lukaku at Inter, Romelu Lukaku at that point could still run in behind. He could still run the channels with some effect. He can't, unless I'm missing something. He can't really do that anymore. Yeah, he can run the channels, but he's getting outrun by defenders. Now, you might say, well, he did have some help in that department because Lautaro Martinez would do a lot of running for him as well. So he needs to have somebody that's going to be able to work as a partnership with him if he goes to Napoli, because he himself, in my opinion, over the last 18 months, as age has caught up with him, doesn't have the ability to run in behind and frighten those defenders anymore. So the point being is that this big love-in that they had at Inter and they had success with, this is a different side. This is a different makeup of a side at Napoli, and this is a different Romelu Lukaku. Yeah, he might get you some goals if you get enough balls in the box and he starts hunting about the penalty area, but he's not going to be able to do the things for Antonio Conte that he did for him at Inter.
Lautaro and Lukaku was a great partnership. So is Gab and Jules. Will Gab be back for the latest
Who's
podcast?
running in behind in
Jules?
that partnership?
Not Gab. Jules will have to run the channel. Jules will have to run the channels. Huh, you set it up and we get it out the park.
Will he be back, Jules? Will he be back? Will he be with you?
Gab is back, but I'm not back. I'm not there, so he will be with Mark Ogden, I think, tomorrow.
Augie's going to have to run the channel. Augie going to run.
Nobody runs. Nobody runs at that time.
Times Jules show, the Gab and Mark show next up. Make sure to check that out twice a week, wherever you do get your podcasts. Always keep up to date with the Gab and Jules show, especially because it's on location from Euro 2024 this summer. And some NWSL action coming up in the form of racing Louisville FC against Bay FC Saturday 4 Eastern. ESPN and ESPN Deportes has you covered for that. Well, thanks so much for being with us.
If yesterday's extra time was so good, why don't we just rerun it?
Oh, no, because we've got some nice questions for you guys. Stick around. Today's extra time is going to be even better.
I tried.
Yeah.
I tried. Get that, bud.
Welcome into the latest edition of Extra Time. Bigger and better today than yesterday. Julian Laurent is with us, Craig Burley and Shaka Hislop as well. All right, first question for Jules. You're not going to get bothered by anybody there today, are you, Jules? You got no stalkers behind you?
No, today.
No?
Producer Pete said, no anymore, not like yesterday. I mean, that German guy yesterday was so drunk. I mean, he didn't want to leave. When he heard that, Craig Burley was part of the ESPN team, he was like, Craig Burley? Yeah, I want to see him. So,
He attracts the drunks, okay.
Hey, listen. I could be big in Germany. I'm big in Germany.
I should be thinking Germany. What, like Hasselhoff?
I've been to Stuttgart and Berlin. I'm a travel man. He's seen me somewhere. He's seen me somewhere.
Could be. All right, first question for Jules. Jules, what's been your favourite stadium to watch a match so far in this tournament?
that's a good question. I mean, some like Gelsenkirchen are great stadiums inside, but to get there, my words. I mean, obviously coming from Paris and living in London now, I'm going to be a bit snobby and staying here in Berlin. Going to be snobby with some of the cities I go to, right? Because I'm used to, obviously, the top of the top. But the way that to get to Gelsenkirchen and to leave Gelsenkirchen, the tram stopped in the middle of nowhere for no reason for half an hour. Then there was no train. It was an absolute shambles. So I won't pick Gelsenkirchen, although it's a lovely, lovely stadium. If you've got the chance to go and watch Schalke, or if Germany play there, go, because it's special. But just get ready. It's an absolute nightmare to get to and back, basically. I would say Dortmund yesterday, because Dortmund is always special with the yellow wall that they have, although it was not yellow yesterday. It was half blue or half white. Pretty cool. Düsseldorf looks like a mall from the outside, but it's nice inside. I would probably say Leipzig. I was not too keen. So I would go for Stuttgart. Stuttgart was lovely.
Oh, very nice.
I've been to that stadium many years ago. That's why I'm big in Germany. Now these stories of the travel in Germany, some of the travel, not all, but some, there's been some problems. If you follow Derek Ray on Twitter, right? According to Derek, leading into this tournament, and many months and years before this tournament even evolved, Germany has the greatest ever transport system in the history of the world.
Hang on a minute. He does also update us on X, Twitter, of the trains going on.
Yeah, but he never comes on. He
lets us know in case we need to. And right now, some people do need to know.
Yeah, but he never ever comes on and says, the transport has been a disaster. The Germans need to get the finger out. He doesn't.
So what you're saying is Jules needs to follow Derek.
No.
on Twitter to get his transport advice?
Well, I'm sure.
Because apparently Jules has just been winging it and it's not worked.
Well, maybe Jules has been reading
what I'm saying
Derek's
is, though,
tweets
is
and he
we
got
know
the
that-
wrong impression and he thought he'd be fine to get the
No,
tram out.
I got unlucky, I think.
We know
Yeah.
we know Derek's love of Germany. My point being is that he must be at this criticism. He must be very Harry Kane-esque.
Yeah.
Kevin De Bruyne going, don't criticise the trains. Get behind us. If indeed you can get behind the train, I don't know. So yeah,
Who's bigger in Germany, you or Derek?
Yeah, exactly.
what?
Who's bigger in Germany, you or Derek?
Well, let me see.
Have you been on the German talk shows?
I think my Ard, is that Ard? ARD? Ard, lad.
Abs.
Ard, yeah. They keep. I'm fed up. I tell you what, I've had to block them. I've had to block them. You know, I want to say, when I scored at the World Cup, sorry to mention it, I did get an offer, and from I've told you this, I did get an offer from a dentist in Munich to fix my teeth. That's a true story. What are you laughing at? I got an offer the next day.
What happened?
I've heard this
Well, I
story
thought-
like 10 times already.
I know. I told you. I'm not going to tell you the whole story. All right, I will. So you laugh all you like. You laugh. But after that goal and the picture in the paper, I got an offer in Germany to have my teeth fixed. And I turned it down because I would have been mobbed. All right, move on. More questions. It's late in Berlin. More questions.
All right, for Craig. Yesterday, Stevie admitted that he gets more excited for an England loss than a Scotland win. What about you? Are you the same as Stevie?
I'm done. No, I am definitely not the same as him. We're made slightly different. Do you know what? He gets more perturbed with England than I do. I don't really have an issue with England because I've lived most of my life in England and 99% of my buddies are English. That being said, I don't mind a little bit of glorious failure. You know, when they really get the hopes up and Dan Thomas gets like a big kid and then all of a sudden the French beat them or the Germans beat them in the semi-final. That's fine. What? Okay.
Yeah.
What?
Did she get a little overexcited too?
I don't think so.
No?
I don't know if you guys are watching an England game with me.
No.
But you said that was in
So I don't.
yesterday, right? 2 days ago. Yesterday.
Dan's a proper punter.
Yeah.
We've established that.
But I don't get what I don't.
Yeah, you're right. I've never watched England with you.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're like.
Well, you're always in LA. They traveling, vacation. I don't know. I don't get upset. Because I doing this job. I understand England have got good players. They're making a mess of it at the moment, but they have good players, so I expect them to play well. So I don't really get perturbed. The Scottish side of it, I think you just have to accept that Scotland are where they are at the moment. So when you roll all those things out, I don't really. I mean, I wouldn't beat myself up if England won this tournament. I wouldn't be like, I just play more golf. I don't know.
And avoid Dan at all costs.
You play more golf if England win or lose.
Oh, I don't know.
It's fairly
man.
consistent.
But he
You're
gets
not-
very.
you're not the same as
but
Steve.
Nickel gets very angry at stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He does.
He does.
There's a funny dynamic yesterday with him and Dan. Dan's cheering everything. Stevie's poo-poo and everything. It's so funny. It's funny.
Have you ever seen? People have never seen this. Have you ever sat in where we sit watching the game, and Stevie has a bag of chips. It's about that size, right? Isn't he? It's incredible. Normal people, they buy the regular. Sorry, over here. Regular chip size. Not. He's got this size, and I mean, it's like you've got to put the arm in like that. Oh, I'm going to drop my mic. But
Just as long as it's not Don's hand, because
Don, yeah,
Don found out he doesn't like to share.
he doesn't like to share.
Yeah.
Well, you don't get Stevie's size by sharing.
Moving on. For Shaka, pick, drop and bench these goalies.
As he always says to me, have you looked in the mirror recently? No.
Pick, drop or bench these goalies. Unai Simon, Georgi Mamadashvili and Gigio Donnarumma, based on current form.
Oh, man.
Who was the first one?
Unai
Unai
Simon.
Simon. Based on Euro form, I'll go Donnarumma, Mamardashvili, Unai Simon.
Okay.
What, Donnarumma dropped?
No, Donnarumma pick bench and drop Unai Simon. Donnarumma for Italy is not the same. It's not the same player who plays for PSG.
Better.
Oh, he's a million times better.
Jules, has the tournament expansion made group play more or less interesting?
I mean, both really, because we've seen with Georgia, Slovakia, Slovenia, those kind of teams, which is great stories for them, great stories for the tournament. I think different teams qualifying for the last 16 knockout stages is great. I think those players will improve. Those national team and selections, it's great for them. But you've also seen in the England group yesterday, when a draw is enough for everybody draws, they don't really care. It's 0-0, 2-0. It was boring. And then, so you've got, I think, the two sides of the coins, really, and which you'll never be able to fix. Now, they're never going to reduce the size of the Euros. The only thing that they could do, again, like the World Cup, is increasing it. I don't think it will happen anytime soon, but it will stay like that. And I suspect in 4 years' time, we'll have similar scenario where some groups are going to be very exciting until the end because of the first two games, the way they went, and others, a bit like the England group, where 2 draws, we don't need to win, we're happy with the 0-0. And so it will be like that. So we just need to get used to it. But yeah, it brings you both sides, really, the very exciting stuff and the more boring stuff.
I'd love to be in at this tournament. It's the logistics. I mean, the security detail that I would need, just we don't have the budget for. Be like Justin Timberlake walking down through Berlin.
I'm going to ask that. I don't believe this. I'll have to ask Derek because he is the authority on Germany.
Well, not on trains, he's not. He's only authority on running trains, not ones that are 3 hours late, cram with
Definitely
people.
not on trains.
Definitely,
not on trains. What do you call trains in German?
He does keep us up to date.
Anybody know? Have we got anybody?
Jules knows.
No,
Anybody?
Hauptbahnhof. Yeah, Hauptbahnhof is the central station. So Bahnhof is station. Bahn is train, I guess, because the train company is called Deutsche Bahn. So Bahn is train, I guess.
Deutsche Bahn.
I don't know, and Dutch for German. Yeah.
Deutsche Bahn. Chat.
It's some things you wake up in the morning and you think, I'm not going to be talking about German trains, am I?
Well, not you.
You never, I'm never prepared for a conversation about German trains
Well, what
in the morning. I just didn't
Craig.
I didn't see my life panning out this
What
way.
about Italian trains?
Well, I
They are good, I can confirm. Craig, will David Moyes be in the running to be the next Scotland boss, or do you see him staying in club football?
I think it would be less stressful for him to possibly take an international job now. There is a lot of talk at the moment, or there is some talk in Scotland about Steve Clarke being replaced, because I think it's a little harsh in a sense that, you know, he's taken Scotland to 2 major championships. They didn't go to any for over 20 years. But then there is an argument to say, well, the performances, particularly in the Hungary game and the team selection, was too negative at a time when you had to push forward. So there's pros and cons there. But it's not my call, obviously. But if they do replace him, I think David Moyes will definitely be in the running. A bit like Alec McLeish was when he left club football, a bit like Walter Smith, the late great Walter Smith was when he left club football at Rangers and Everton, because the day-to-day grind. And it actually suited those guys. And I could see it suiting somebody like David Moyes, a bit like Jose Mourinho, in the sense that you're kind of waiting for him to take an international job, because how much of the rigors of this day-to-day stuff can you keep putting yourself through that the likes of Mourinho and others have? And whilst international football is not without stress, it does not have the day-to-day responsibility that club elite level football has. So I could see that happening with David Moyes, but then some people just have it in their veins, don't they? They don't want to have 2 months without a game. They don't want it. They want to be involved in day training and decisions, and just they can't let it go. And I don't know if David Moyes is like that or not, but maybe he has got one eye on a Scottish job if it does come around.
I'm not going to ask Craig this because I think he's made his feelings very clear. But Jules, is it fair for managers and players to ask fans not to criticise them, or does this seem overly sensitive on their part?
Shall I let Craig go first, or
Yes,
I'll
please.
start
Yes,
just
please.
to warm him up a bit, and then he can go. I mean, surely this question was put there to wind him up because, like he explained rightly on the show, this is part of your job. Like, if you're not ready for the criticism, then don't become a professional footballer. This is not for you. It's part of your job. If you're not good, people are not going to be happy. The media, the fans, and then you're going to get criticized. Sometimes heavily criticized, sometimes a little bit criticized, sometimes in the middle. And right now they get heavily criticized. But you cannot ask people who pay the travel, pay the tickets, pay a lot of money, even sometimes for some television, TV channels, to watch you and then say, "Oh, please be kind to us." Like, is that a Care Bear world? There's something I'm missing for Harry Kane to be behaving like this now?
I mean, what's the mindset here? I don't want to go. Keep going over this. It's a little bit of old ground, but obviously Kevin De Bruyne has made some comments after the Belgium game, the final group game, that has sort of spurred it on a little bit again. But you know, what is any pundit, analyst, journalist getting behind, and not how is that going to improve a player's performance on the field? That has to come from the player himself, the players. Whether Shaka, Jules and myself or anybody sits and goes, Harry Kane's been the worst England player at this tournament, or Harry Kane, it's everybody else's fault, but Harry Kane has been excellent. Whatever way you go, what difference is that going to make to Harry Kane, Jude Bellingham, Phil Foden, Kevin De Bruyne or anybody else? You're the only one that can change the narrative by your performance. And it's been this way since day dot. Day dot, when players... Back in the day, years ago, the only way they'd find the criticism by picking up a newspaper, which they did, and you got your marks out of 10, and it still happens that way, but obviously there's more ways you can pick your news up. And whether it was the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, it didn't matter. That criticism was there. Nothing's changed.
If you say anything, it is going to make a documentary, so just be careful what you say, all right?
All right, I'll try. Building on what Craig said, the only way you change the narrative is by the way you play. We can't change the way you play with our narrative. So it doesn't matter. We can't say, if England are poor and we sit here for some very strange reason and say England have been really good, that doesn't change their performance in the next game. That doesn't make them any better. So I don't understand the criticism around the media and what's said. We can't. It doesn't matter if we sit here and say England are good, bad, or indifferent. That doesn't mean that you go and beat Slovakia or whoever is the next game. That only you can take care of that. That's we have nothing to do with that. So I just find the whole kind of everything about it just so disingenuous.
The last question is for you, but it's Jules who has to answer, Shaka.
All right, okay.
Jules, as a well-travelled man, where would you recommend Shaka spend his next vacation at?
Well, we had a good time in Qatar, didn't we?
We did.
With Shaq 18 months ago. That was pretty good. We did. I would love him to come to Paris so I could show him, my city, the nice restaurants with a view on the Champs-Elysees or the Eiffel Tower. Him and I could have a romantic meal. We could do loads of really lovely things there. There's great clubs. We don't have a carnival, but we've got some good parties there and there, especially at weekends in Paris. So I would love to take him to Paris.
Well, what's clubs got to do with me?
Come on,
I can recommend, if you ever go to Paris, if you ever do go to Paris,
Right.
and I was there for 6 weeks for the Euros in 2016, that there's a very good delicacy that the French really like. And our colleague Steve McManaman, he decided to try it, which was penne arrabbiata with fries on top.
That is the most Steve Nicol thing I've heard.
Steve McManaman.
I know, but you talk about
Hold on a
the
minute.
chips on top.
Even Nickel wouldn't do that.
Oh, he wouldn't do the
Really?
spicy penne, would he?
All right,
Yeah.
yeah, right. Okay.
No, he wouldn't do
Yeah, he
spicy.
would-
But
yeah, he
it's
wouldn't do
very
spicy.
English, isn't
No,
it?
he
To
wouldn't
go,
do-
what
to,
he
go
would
to
do.
Paris and order an
But
Italian.
you could so see
dish.
Stevie
Well-
dumping chips.
Well, it wasn't the Italian dish per se, because there's a nice little Italian cafe just around the corner
It's the
from
chips with
the
the,
hotel.
with the pasta.
Who were offering up some different variations
Fries.
of penny. Yeah. But it was McManaman's, even the initial, I'll have a side plate of fries with my penny arrabbiata, kind of made me go, whoa, hold on a minute. Side plate of fries with penny arrabbiata, little bit strange. But then it was the mechanical arm that came in from McManaman, the aforementioned, who's coming over here, by the way. And then went like that and dropped a handful of fries, on top of the penny.
You know how bad it has to be for somebody to say, not even Stevie would do that. Not even Stevie Nickel would do that. You know how bad it has to be.
Well, he wouldn't have a penny in the first place.
But Jules, what would the French be thinking about that? Those Parisians watching that?
Nah, I think I'm hoping that they chucked him out of the restaurant because this is a disgrace.
Well, it wasn't a particularly nice area of Paris. It was only the Saint-Germain area. I think I got that right. Saint-Germain.
okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
are you very popular in
Saint-Germain.
France as well?
Could barely go out. In fact, I had to put some fries in my head as a disguise.
European legend
I
Craig
told you
Burley.
about the offer I got to fix my teeth in France. It's late for Jules. It's late for Jules.
It is late for Jules. Let's let him go. Thank you so much for sending in your questions. Thanks you guys for sharing all of your stories. The team will be back tomorrow to do it all over again.